Hello, welcome, Jonas and Ishana, to the BSN Summit. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
My name is Matthew, and I'm going to be walking us through this conversation today about students getting involved in Bitcoin development and all of the learning resources available to them. I'd like to begin with each of you to give a brief introduction about yourself and what you work on in Bitcoin. And I'd like to begin with Ishana, as I've heard that you're the youngest ever Bitcoin developer and contributor. So please go ahead.
Yeah, sure. So I got started with Bitcoin in 2022 when I went to the BitDevs in New York. And so that's when I sort of started contributing to Bitcoin Core, and I met a bunch of the contributors who were super useful and helpful in sort of getting started in sort of a complicated project. And I began working on like test cases and the more wallet side of Bitcoin Core. And then, so I've been sort of working on that for the last 4 years. And then I also did research at a few places, um, particularly on like wallet privacy related things.
Very cool. Thank you. And Jonas?
Sure. So I'm Jonas. I'm the CEO of Chaincode Labs here in New York City, and we are a research and development shop. No product, no revenue. We simply exist to make Bitcoin better. So I've been here for 7 years, and we employ about 15 people that work, many of which work on Bitcoin Core, and many do research and work in Lightning and things like that.
It's very cool. I hear a New York connection for each of you. Ishana's meetup that got her connected with all the developers was there in New York City. Was that part of one of your initiatives, the Bit Devs in New York?
We've hosted a few BitDevs in New York, but no, BitDevs was started well before Chaincode even existed. So it's this worldwide phenomenon of helping get people together for technical meetups, usually on a monthly basis, and they are all over the world. So if you're interested in those kinds of things, you can go to, is it bitdevs.org?
I think so.
Bitdevs.org.
I
Bitdevs.org, that's
think so.
correct.
And then slash cities, and it'll have a list of cities.
That's really cool. Ishana, what got you to go out to that Bit Devs meetup? What inspired you to go and connect with the Bitcoin developer community?
Yeah, so I had actually started reading about Bitcoin online that summer. I watched a couple of videos. I read Jameson Lopp has a really good section of his website on like resources for beginners or people just getting into Bitcoin. So I read a bunch of those. And then I think I was just looking for places to meet developers because I knew that I wanted to get into the more like programming aspect of Bitcoin. And so yeah, BitDevs is like a great organization. They're all over the world. Yeah, I think if there's one in your area, I definitely recommend checking it out.
So once you got to meet the Bitcoin developers and you learned a little bit more about how the project worked, did you go through any educational programs? Did you take a course? Was there a seminar that you went to? I'd really like to hear more about that.
Yeah, so there's actually a couple things. I think the first thing that I did was I read Mastering Bitcoin by Andreas Antonopoulos, which is a really good book. I think the third edition recently came out, but I know that it's available online on GitHub for free, which is just like a great resource. And then I also, Chaincode has a really good seminar on learning like Bitcoin protocol development. I think it was 5 weeks. And Jonas, that's still running, right?
Not quite, but I'll talk about what we do have.
Okay, cool. I know that the resources are online, and so like going through those were super helpful, and there's great questions and stuff.
Wow. So, Jonas, what's changed since Ishana began in the program? But how has the program evolved?
Sure. So I think we've changed quite a bit. So give you a little bit of a history of sort of education and what we've done at Chaincode, including things that predate me. So in 2017, I believe, or 2016, I believe was the first Chaincode residency. And that was run by Matt Corallo, aka Blue Matt. and he took a leave of absence from Blockstream, which is sort of like a giant in the space, to just like work on helping other people onboard into Bitcoin development, specifically Bitcoin Core. So that was sort of the first instance of that. And in fact, there are some really great contributors from that first class, including Neha Narula, who's the executive director of DCI. She was in that first residency. And so that sort of started this in-person residency program that continued up until COVID. So every year, including I think twice in 2018, we had in-person residencies and trying to bring people from the outside, people that are on the periphery of maybe contributing, and helping them get squarely into contributing. And what we really focused on in 2019 was making sure that everybody had funding and they could make this like a sustainable career choice afterwards. So obviously COVID changed a lot of things in terms of just sort of how the world worked, and in-person programs were pretty difficult to do for a while there. So we shifted everything we did online. And that was sort of the start of the seminar, the thing that Ishaana took. And it was really just a chance for technical people around the world to come together and to find other people that were falling down the rabbit hole like they were. And we got better as we did it over time, but it was an opportunity to just connect with other people. It was an opportunity to learn a lot of technical things. And then to build a community around other sort of learners and people that were interested in contributing to Bitcoin open source, to keep in touch afterwards. So we did that for a few years. And in 2024, we changed the model, sort of iterated on that to make it, first of all, a little bit wider scale, so that we were really going out and trying to recruit people from all over the world. And then really like making sure that it was squarely not for just people that were trying to level up, but really that people that wanted to make Bitcoin open source like a career choice for them. So we called it the Start Your Career in Bitcoin Open Source program, because we wanted to be very clear what you're signing up for. And we've done that the last 2 years, and we'll be doing that again in 2026. And that's really like where we've shifted most of our energy in terms of trying to find outside contributors like Ishaana, and giving them sort of pathways and onboarding structure so that they can be squarely sort of inside the circle of what they understand, how they can contribute, what kind of projects are available, what does onboarding look like.
Cool. And that's the BOSS program. This is the same program.
Yeah, so I'm trying to make BOSS a thing. I think it's an awesome acronym, Bitcoin Open Source Software. I'd like everybody to call it BOSS from here on out. Thank you for your attention to this matter.
Very cool. Something that really caught my attention as you were sharing the history of the program is how the program guides a student to making their first contributions. I know that with Bitcoin, there's a lot of different open issues. There's many different moving pieces inside of the project, and getting somebody onto a specific part can be challenging. I'd like to hear from Ishaana about her first contributions to Bitcoin. How long was it from when she first went to that meetup to moving forward and making that first contribution? And yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, this is definitely an interesting thing to think about. Let's see. I think I went to the first meetup August of 2022, so that's when I first started. That was like my very first introduction to Bitcoin Core and such. And then I believe my first contribution was like April or May of 2023, and it was a bug fix. So Bitcoin Core like specifically has this really good thing called like good first issues. So it's just like small like bugs that can be fixed, or features that can be added that aren't too difficult, but still useful to the project. And they're a really good way for people to make their first contribution. And yeah, so it actually wasn't too much time between when I first started going to BitDevs and um, made my first contribution. And oh, I guess also for context, I'm currently a freshman at MIT, and so I was in high school during this time, and so I was able to still like like do high school stuff and also be working on Bitcoin Core like on the side.
That's really cool. You didn't have a set boss. You didn't have to answer to one person. You got right into that decentralized work structure.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting to think about in hindsight because it didn't really occur to me that that's not how most programming jobs work. So yeah, so that might be something that I'll have to get used to in the future. But I was really grateful to not have to do that. You can just like you can really just do things in Bitcoin. Um yeah, so I think that's really cool.
I'm interested to hear how the channel of communication opened between you and other people working on your area of contribution. Was it in the GitHub repo? Did you go onto IRC chats? Did anyone pair you up? Did anything like this happen?
Yeah, so I think a lot of so I just like meet developers at BitDevs, and then they'd introduce me to other developers, and yeah, a lot of it is in GitHub too. I think it's a really sort of fun experience to be working with people in GitHub and reviewing each other's code, and then you meet them at a conference, and it's like, oh wait, I actually do know you from GitHub, and yeah, yeah. So I think largely that, and also IRC meetings. So there's this thing called the like Bitcoin peer review club. So that's like also a really good way to meet other Bitcoin core developers.
Very cool. Now, Jonas, it's been 2 years with the new model of the program. Do you have any insights you can share about the journey of a user from when they first sign up to the program to making their first Bitcoin core contributions?
Sure. And just to be clear, so Bitcoin Core is just one project and it's part of a larger Bitcoin open source ecosystem. Um, so when I think about Bitcoin open source, it's not specifically Bitcoin Core, although that is sort of like what people think about, when they're thinking about sort of the ecosystem at large. So um, the question was things that have changed, or sorry, the arc of someone who sort of is the first, like a first time contributor.
Yes.
So it really, I think that's what's so great about this ecosystem is that you find spectacular people and they each have their own individual approach. So, when I first met Ishana, she, there's no way that like as someone who runs a company that I could just like give her a job or just sort of get her started. But what's so great about this is that there's nobody really cares who you are, what you look like, where you're from, what your background is. If you can contribute something useful, then people will take those contributions seriously. So it's sort of like there's no barrier to entry. And that means that if you come in through a program like I described, then you have some structure and it's sort of like, maybe there's some crumbs that you can follow to be, your first open source contribution. But there's so many other people that have come in so many other different ways that like, I don't want to put that approach on a particular pedestal. While I think it really works, um, there's people that just show up and they have been, since the beginning of Bitcoin and since open source generally, that just find ways to contribute and then they do more and they do more and then they find other people that value those contributions who are willing to help them. I think people are like surprisingly nice generally. Not maybe what you'd find on Twitter, which is not, I think, very good representation of actually what Bitcoin development is like. I think if you show up and you're earnest and you want to learn and you ask good questions, then you will find a really receptive group of people on the other end. And I think everybody remembers what it was like sort of in the beginning. It can feel intimidating and feel like you don't know what to do next or what questions to ask or things like that. And so everybody's just doing the best they can.
That's really cool. I think that you summarized a lot of ways to get students excited as to considering Bitcoin as a career. Do you have any closing remark as to get into the mind of a college student and why they're welcome to join into this program and get onboarded working on Bitcoin?
Um, I once was a college student, but those days are long past me. Yeah, I just think like I think um, this journey can be like it's just really different than I think a lot of things that are out there. I think in a lot of ways, like it can be really hard from like your parents and friends to wrap their heads around like what this is and like you're working on something that you're just giving away and someone pays you and it's just like it's sort of mind blowing, just sort of how like open source software works generally. Um, but yeah, I just think there's like never been a better time to get involved with um, building the future of money. Like if you care about your own future and you care about, we do this kind of work not just on behalf of ourselves. We do it for the people that we care about most, our friends, our families, our neighbors, our communities. This stuff is really important. And now is like a really good time because I think we all can probably agree if you sort of just like, stick your finger up in the air, like things feel weird. The times are sort of changing. And I think having a money that works and will endure and, cares less about sort of like the news of the day and much more about like what's going on globally and how we can all be on an equal playing field, I think is really important. And it's certainly something I put my career behind. But I just, you know, I think if you want to make a dent in the universe, this is a good place to do it.
Thank you. That's really cool. Ishaana, do you have a message for your classmates?
Yeah, I think as a current college student, I think it definitely I definitely agree with everything that Jonas mentioned about the benefits of working in open source and Bitcoin specifically. I would also add that you learn a lot while doing. And I think sometimes people do get stuck on like, oh, I need to know like X, Y, and Z before I can even begin to look at software and such. But you really do learn a lot just by, like writing code and experimenting and reviewing PRs especially is I think it's probably one of the fastest ways to learn certain styles of programming or even a programming language, right? I didn't know C++ before I started working on Bitcoin Core. So um, I think that's definitely something and like those skills can be transferable to tons of other places as well. And I think I would also agree about the impact, which is I did forget to mention that when talking about, how this is different from other opportunities that you could get in college, which is that like I feel like there's few other places where you could reasonably like within a couple months be writing code that gets deployed to like thousands of people and really does have impact. And yeah, I think that's one of the coolest things. And I feel like once you start to I feel like it's hard to go back to something where you don't have as much impact on people once you start doing something like Bitcoin. Um, yeah, so I think I'd highly recommend it. Yeah.
Thank you for taking the time to participate today.
Thanks,
Thank
Matthew. If
you.
I could just do one more plug.
Yeah,
So
go ahead.
this boss program that I described will be happening in early January. And so this is going to be a month-long intensive program where we provide structure and support for becoming a contributor. It's completely free, it's remote, it's open worldwide. And I think it creates some camaraderie where there's typically a pretty lonely journey if you don't know where to start. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, learning.chaincode.com is the URL. And yeah, we need more smart people. There's really hard problems to tackle here. So please give it a shot.
Thank you.